One glance, that's all it took. A single meeting of the eyes, and the bravest warriors of ancient Greece turned to solid stone, frozen forever in their final moment of terror. But here's what the stories never told you. Medusa didn't ask for this power. She was a victim first. And her monster wasn't born in mythology. It was forged in violence. To understand Medusa, you must first forget everything you think you know about her. The creature with snakes for hair wasn't always a monster. She was once a priestess in the temple of Athena, one of the most sacred sanctuaries in all of ancient Greece. Her story exists in fragments across 3,000 years, scattered through ancient texts, vase paintings, and the whispered records of those who feared her name. The earliest written account comes from Hesiod's Theogony, dated to around the 7th century BCE. He tells us Medusa was one of 3 Gorgon sisters, creatures so terrible that merely witnessing them would drive mortals mad. But Hesiod adds a crucial detail. Medusa was different. She was the only mortal Gorgon. The others were divine, immortal beings. This distinction would prove fatal to her, but the Theogony doesn't explain how Medusa became what she was. It wasn't until Ovid wrote his Metamorphoses, over 7 centuries later in 1 CE, that the full horror of her transformation emerged. And Ovid's account introduced a narrative that would echo through history. Medusa hadn't been born a monster. She had been made one. But made into what and by whom? According to Ovid, Medusa had once been extraordinarily beautiful, so beautiful that she drew the attention of Poseidon himself, the god of the sea. He saw her in Athena's temple during a sacred ritual. And he wanted her. What happened next was not seduction. It was assault committed in the holy sanctuary of a goddess. Medusa screamed. Her cries echoed through the temple corridors. But no one came. When it was over, she was left broken in the sanctuary she had served with her entire life. And then came the cruelest punishment of all. Athena, the goddess of wisdom and warfare, saw what had happened to her priestess. But instead of comforting her victim, she took action that would define Medusa's remaining existence. But first, what exactly did Athena discover? Athena didn't punish Poseidon. She punished Medusa. The victim became the criminal. The priestess became the monster. Ovid describes the transformation in brutal detail. Her beautiful hair became writhing serpents, each one conscious and hungry. Her skin took on an otherworldly pallor. And worst of all, her eyes gained a terrible power. Any living thing that met her gaze would turn to stone instantly. She became a weapon of absolute isolation. No one could approach her. Everyone who tried to see her face would become a monument to that single moment of contact. But why would a goddess curse her victim instead of her attacker? Scholars have debated this for centuries. Some ancient sources suggest that Athena saw Medusa's beauty as a provocation, that by being desirable, Medusa had somehow invited the god's attention. This was a reflection of how ancient Greek society viewed sexual assault, not as the crime of the aggressor, but as the shame of the victim. The victim's body became the evidence of her defilement. Other accounts suggest a different motivation. Athena was known for her fierce protection of her sacred spaces. Poseidon's violation of her temple was an assault on her own divine authority. By transforming Medusa, Athena didn't merely punish, she weaponized. She took a victim and made her into something so terrible that no future assault could occur in her temple. The priestess became the perfect defense. She became what made Athena's sanctuary inviolable. The name Medusa itself comes from the Greek root, meaning guardian or protector. In some readings, her curse becomes a kind of bitter irony. She protects the very place where she was destroyed. And the serpents, they appeared in ancient Greece as symbols of both healing and death, connected to Asclepius, the god of medicine. Medusa's hair was both a weapon and a wound that would never close. Medusa was not given the option of death, nor was she offered life in any meaningful sense. Instead, according to the accounts, she was driven into exile. She fled Greece entirely, taking refuge in the far western edges of the known world. In Libya, in the desert, in places where the sun burned hotter and human civilization felt impossibly distant. She was utterly alone. And there, in that isolation, her legend began to spread. Travelers reported seeing her. Warriors claimed to have tracked her to her lair. Every account added new details. She lived in a cave surrounded by the stone statues of her victims, a graveyard of failed attempts to either kill her or capture her. These were men who had set out as heroes, seeking glory, seeking to be the warrior who could overcome the impossible monster. None returned alive. Her reputation grew. She became not just a monster, but a test. A final challenge. Kings offered rewards to any man who could bring back proof of her death. Medusa was no longer a victim hiding from the world. She had become a myth, a fixed point of terror against which heroes measured themselves. And soon, the world sent one hero who would change everything. Perseus was the son of Zeus himself. He had already proven himself a warrior. But even he needed help. The gods intervened. Hermes gave him winged sandals so he could fly. Athena, yes, Athena herself, provided him with a polished shield that could reflect Medusa's curse. She showed him how to approach his victim without meeting her eyes. She made his victory inevitable. When he found her, Medusa was alone, as she had always been. She was sleeping. Even in death, even in her cursed form, she was given no dignity. She never saw him coming. Perseus used Athena's shield as a mirror, saw her reflection, and with one blow severed her head from her body. The monster was dead. The problem was solved. The hero returned victorious. But what the sources don't emphasize is this. Athena had just murdered her own victim a second time. And here is the final cruelty. From her severed neck emerged two beings. Chrysaor, a warrior made of gold, and Pegasus, the winged horse. Both divine beings, both the children she had never consented to bear. They were children of her assault, born in the moment of her death. Even in death, Medusa could not escape what Poseidon had done to her. Medusa's story didn't end with her death. It multiplied. Her head, according to Ovid, retained its power even after death. Athena mounted it on her shield, the Aegis, where it continued to turn anything that looked upon it to stone. The victim became a tool. The monster became a trophy displayed by the goddess who had cursed her. But over 2,000 years, Medusa's story was rewritten by those who saw it. Artists depicted her not as a victim, but as a monster to be feared and defeated. Philosophers used her story as a moral lesson about pride and corruption. Her assault was minimized or forgotten. Her curse was treated as her fault. The narrative was inverted so completely that by the Renaissance, she had become nothing but the monster, the abomination that heroes overcome. It wasn't until the 20th century that scholars began to recover Medusa's true story. Feminist scholars and historians recognized what had happened. A narrative of sexual assault had been reframed as a narrative of monstrous evil. The perpetrator, Poseidon, a god, faced no consequences. The victim, Medusa, was cursed twice, once by the god, once by the goddess, and then again by history itself, which forgot what had been done to her. Today, Medusa's image is being reclaimed. Artists, writers, and activists have taken her name and made it mean something different. She is no longer just the monster. She is the survivor. She is the woman who endured the unendurable and still refused to be forgotten. Her serpents are no longer a curse, they are a crown. Her gaze no longer turns people to stone. It pierces through the lies told about her. Medusa's story is a reminder that the monsters we fear in myth often hold a darker truth beneath the surface. They are not born evil. They are made. And often, they are made by the very societies that then condemn them for existing. Her tragedy wasn't that she had snakes for hair or eyes that turned flesh to stone. Her tragedy was that the world preferred to call her a monster rather than face what had been done to her. Medusa was a victim. She was a survivor. She was a monster only because the world made her one. And her story reminds us that the myths we tell about monsters often say more about us than they do about them. If you found Medusa's true story as compelling and unsettling as we did, like and subscribe for more dark history every week. And let us know in the comments, do you see Medusa as the monster or as the victim? Thank you for watching.